Hi, welcome everybody. This is another episode of Block by Block by the Indexing Company and the Neighborhoods. And in this episode, we're going to talk about X402. We're going to have an open discussion on what this protocol actually means for stablecoin payments, payments in general, AI agents that can transact value and just pay each other, pay data providers. And I've got with me Joyce from Crossmint, who is working on the product there and specifically on the AI agent vertical. And also Brock, which you probably have seen already on the Block by Block podcast because he is our CEO at Indexing Co. But maybe you can do a little intro on yourself and what excites you about X402. So maybe let's start with Joyce.
Yeah. Hey everyone, thanks for having me on. I do product at Crossmint, and Crossmint is a platform for developers to bring their software and apps and also agents on chain. So we have server products ranging from wallets to authentication to agent kits, and now we also work on x402 and making our wallets compatible so that agents everywhere can start transacting like humans.
Awesome. Yeah, the new user of the blockchain. So Brock, what about you?
Heyo. Yeah, I don't know. I'm here at Indexing Co, chief intern. Yeah, we've been doing a lot with X402 and focused on the data set of payments, if you will. So we see a natural path to both paying for processing that data as well as then consuming that data and doing a lot of that through X402 as a protocol for exchanging the monetary value that's associated with that data itself.
Nice, nice. And maybe I can ask you, Brock, to do the more technical description of what X402 is, so everybody is aligned on the technical definitions. So if you could do that in short.
Yeah, absolutely. So 402 is a HTTP status code. So this has been around forever. When you load a web page, for instance, the page itself comes back with a 200 status code. 200 meaning everything's okay. If a server breaks, you're going to get a 500 status code. The 402 specifically means payment required. And so earlier this year, Coinbase kind of re-upped the game on that status code by initiating a schema for what that status code could mean in the world of crypto and agents and basically permissionless access to resources. So where it's ended up now is servers are able to reply with a 402 status code with a particular schema requesting payment in cryptocurrency. And then the caller of that, say, API, whether it's an agent or a human or another server, can sign a request offering up that payment back to the server. The server relays it to a facilitator, which puts it on chain, and then sends back the data. So long story short, it's a way to pay. Simple version is it's a way to pay for API calls in real time.
Awesome. Yeah. Basically enabling automatic payments whenever you want on chain. So Joyce, now the more exciting question is, I think, like what are like the cool use cases you see for this kind of protocol?
Well, I think it's very interesting because a lot of API companies, or rather companies that have APIs and services that they want to sell, just overnight had like a new type of like monetization, which now you can not only sell to humans but also agents. And as I'm saying this, I'm laughing because a year ago, like this sentence wouldn't have been possible. And it's just been made possible, number one, because of X402, because now you can actually charge per call instead of having like a monthly subscription kind of thing where, if you're selling to humans, you probably charge through like a credit card, and you have all these problems of like chargebacks, and like some people pay per month but they don't use as much, yada yada yada. And obviously agents can't have cards, they can't have bank accounts, they can't pay you through Stripe. to pay you through crypto is also a whole nother like legal mess. And so with x402, it's kind of like money streaming in a way, and they just for what they use. And a lot of companies who previously not paywall the services or API can now do so via X, and now they charge humans to non-humans. So use case that x402 and a lot of companies that I've are now very excited to see come in. It's been, I want to say lifesaver, at least they're making money.
Yeah, and I think it is with these standards that now everybody starts speaking the same language, and you can connect way faster because you decided, say, this is the protocol, and we can now collaborate also on joint tooling. So I think there was 100%. There's always a lot of like marketing and just attention grabbing on Twitter. And you've both looked quite well into this space. So maybe what's actually still missing, because there's a lot of this like being built already, and we see these flows coming. But there's probably a lot missing in this coordination layer or in the protocol itself. So what have been like the blockers so far? Maybe start with Brock.
It's actually super curious what Joyce is trying to say. I'll offer a short answer first. But I think on my end, from what I've seen with the builder community and developers is, yes, we have a facilitator ecosystem starting to emerge, i.e. with Coinbase out there in the wild. But network and token support is extremely limited. The vast majority of the volume is tied to USDC on base, and you have to register with Coinbase. This isn't a blocker for all teams, but it is a factor that some, especially international teams, have to consider.
Yeah, I second that. In fact, we actually had to do more work just to support Solana. And it's not been easy, right? Like Solana, the foundation has been incredibly helpful, and obviously there are other chains like Scale Network as well, for example, also
Yes.
trying to help developers. But like these are not easy, right? And it's like, we're like 4 years into DeFi season already, and like we still have these problems where chains are so fragmented, and like the work that you do on one chain is not going to translate to the work that you do on another chain. And it's just like, why are we doing this, right? And we provide wallets, and so we have to make sure that our wallets can support x402 across all chains, because agents don't discriminate which chains they're on. And there has been a lot of work with different facilitators on different chains just to get the wallets working across different chains. Another blocker I want to say is I've realized that half the attention that we're getting, and I kind of predicted this, and this is very common in crypto, but the reason why x402 suddenly blew up was because someone created a meme coin of it overnight, right? And I'm not against meme coins. Like, I trade meme coins. I have launched a meme coin before, but that attention didn't come from developers, which was kind of surprising me at first, because it's fundamentally a very technical topic, and like it's an error code that's been around for like 20 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is it just taking off now? And it's because someone created a meme coin, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be like a second AI season. And so a lot of like real work and a lot of like substance got kind of buried, right, in this whole hype. And that was a little bit annoying to see, I think, for a lot of like serious developers out there, because they were out there trying to like educate people, and like I was making all these market maps, and everyone just tried to get their names on there because they wanted to pump the token. And I'm like, yeah, that's not how it works. Like, I only feature projects that I have actually looked into, and like I know the teams, like you guys, for example. So that's not really a blocker, but like the whole meta came and went so quickly because the coins came and went so quickly.
Yes.
And now to get actual organic attention, it's going to take more effort and time, and it's kind of like we're restarting. So
Yep.
Yeah, and interestingly, this is not about the coins. It's actually about the tech that enables like paying with the coins, and actually different usage than just trading.
Well, and that's the funny part is you can launch a meme coin with x402, but you can't pay for it with it.
Yeah, it's a bit of the disconnect between like the attention economy, let's call it that, like straight out speculation, and what's being built, which of course can be hard if you're not technical. Like it took me a lot of conversation with Brock, like understanding where this can be plugged in. And when I realized, oh, this is what we want to build anyway for a protocol, so people can pay for the data per call, or an agent can pay per call. Like, oh, this is what we actually want to build. So that's where an unlock is. But I think it's also a protocol that will eventually just abstract away from everybody else. But yes, builders got excited, and the rest of the space got excited, and then the result is always some meme coins.
Yep.
But I don't think that's a bad thing. Like this attention gets people excited about the real tech too. So I think those micropayments are something that, as Joyce said before, wasn't really possible, or you need to do a lot of custom work. Now there is actually a joint coordination layer for that. So maybe a question for you, Joyce, because one thing, as you said, is there's a big difference between all these chains, and what we're going to see is also a difference in tooling. And maybe for you, you can aggregate that a little bit, or you have to, because that's how you implement it. And everything in crypto eventually leads to some kind of like solver aggregator structure. And do you see that as your role as a wallet provider? Like you basically take the right facilitators for x402, or you pick the right path for a transaction. How does that integrate well with you being a wallet provider?
yeah, so as a wallet provider, we already aggregate the chains, kind of. So for x402, we actually I wouldn't say specifically, but we are starting to work with some facilitators out there, and one of the largest ones that we're working with is Corbits, or rather Fairmeter, which is what they're putting out. And they have been very helpful in helping us, in facilitating Solana transactions, right, with Solana X4 transactions with Crossmint wallets. And so that's kind of just one example of like one facilitator on one chain that we're working with. It will take us a little longer to work with most facilitators out there from most chains, but I would say though, like most of the volume right now is definitely happening on Base, obviously because Coinbase started this thing, and also Solana because people want to have payments in Solana. And so I guess as we monitor, we will decide which chains would be more helpful for the developers that want to work with us. And I don't think it's our job per se, but from a developer experience standpoint, like it definitely makes a difference, because we're currently, well, at the time of recording, the only wallet out there, the only wallet provider out there that is actively taking steps to help developers build with x402, Coinbase wallet, obviously, because Coinbase made x402. But outside of Coinbase, right, I think we're one of the biggest players out there who is pushing for this narrative. And we've actually been working on it since like July. Like if you look at some of the tweets that our co-founder made, and like some of the videos that I put out, I remember the first few videos that I put out about x402 got like no views, which is kind of funny to me because like I usually have like some views on my videos, right? And like all the x402 videos flopped so hard, and this was like September, and I was like, wow, I'm doing something wrong. Either I'm doing something wrong, or x402 is just not important. And then right after that, right, like this whole thing happens, and like people start going back to my old videos, and all of a sudden my videos are like blowing up, and that's when I actually got alerted of like this meta happening, because like that doesn't happen unless something's like blowing up and people are like looking for old videos to look for. Like at one point it was like zero content around x402, that my Twitter video that got like 5K views was ranked on Google, because there was just no content around x402. And obviously it ranks like 100 now, but like that it's just crazy. But we were very early, and so we're hoping to really continue this work.
Yeah, and I guess with like the agents, like your focus there too, I think that will always capture some attention. But now in combination with X402, like you're still quite uniquely positioned to capture that. So I'm wondering, like we're more on the data side, so agents could request data from us. But how do you see like integrating agents with X402, and what kind of needs do these agents like for data or services?
Yeah, so the funny thing is, we have been trying to sell this concept of like agent wallets since like December last year. So if you look at our open source repos, we've had agent wallets as like repos since December last year. Obviously, it was the agent meta, and like everyone was saying that their wallets are great for agents, but we actually changed the architecture so that agents would be able to hold wallets securely. But that was just the security part, and there was a lot missing in the payments part, because how do you even charge agents? And the only workaround that we had at the time was you would have to approve transactions, or batch approve transactions, or have like a certain limit, right, in which an agent could spend from the wallet. The reason why we were so excited when X402 came out, was because it gave agents a way to autonomously pay for things in like smaller amounts that a lot of agent owners would be very comfortable with. Because if you look at X402 transactions, a lot of them are like 5 cents, right? 15 cents, 50 cents, a dollar, because they pay per call or they pay per excess or whatever. And this is where I think like requesting for something like data comes in to play. And I haven't really seen this on the market yet, because a lot of the agents that people put out are very financial driven, right? So they're either there to trade for you or to do DeFi stuff for you. Or in this case, you have them pull like interesting stuff like the weather, where you try to build like a weather app, right? If you go to the third web, if you go into the X402 marketplace, a lot of it is very still kind of how do I say, like play data, but like no one's really requesting for like real like blockchain data yet. And you need this data to build actual good financial apps. For example, if I wanted my agent to trade on like Hyperliquid, right, I can now do this because I could just request order book data, and like useful data, right, for my agent to start making decisions. Ask like sites are like who's bidding what, like wallets. Like one of many use cases that I want to see, and don't have a lot of like data points like that are ready for consumption. So my take on like the for agent.
Yeah, I hope Brock is making some notes on what he has to build in the next hour after this recording. uh, no, like, yeah, we've been definitely looking at those kind of small APIs. Like, I think you should just start small, right? Like, one of the ideas, I'm just going to spill it, Brock. Like, it's just a simple API endpoint where an agent just requests what kind of holdings they have, right? Like that. Like that's essential information if I want to pay and make the decision if that's possible, or how many calls I can do before I run out. Just that as an API, and make it super cheap, of course, because it's like essential information and just a small piece of info. But like those kind of tools that are just useful for an agent to use. I think that is interesting. So like, what transactions have I done? Did the transaction I put out actually like finalize? Like an agent actually doesn't know if that happened on the blockchain. So now they could like do an API call and like, hey, did that transaction actually go through? Yes, it did. Okay, report back to the user. I did this trade into this coin that you asked, or like not even asked. Like this is going to do 100x, and yeah, I'll alert you once it did 100x, and like that kind of basic info, just requesting the status of things on chain, I think seems obvious, but there is a lot of infra beneath that still has to be built and exposed, especially to these agents. So maybe that's a question for you, Brock. Like you've been trying to code a few of these things, and you probably ran into like blockers on what x402 isn't yet. Like people in facilitators have to build. So yeah, like what kind of features do you want to request, or are you building right now?
Yeah, and like this is where the reminder comes in that x402 is just a proposal for a spec. It's not an implementation. So that's the same this whole time. Yeah, on our end with Index & Co, we're planning to expose APIs for like wallets, balances, payments, raw RPC data, all via x402. But one of the biggest issues is if you break down traditional, say, RPC plans, the per API call is going to be like 1/100th, 1/1000th of a penny. It makes no sense in this world where you still have to pay gas fees. And so we need a model that allows you to essentially bundle API calls, or maybe you're still signing for each one, but the payment is deferred or lands on chain later. And I think those implementations haven't been sorted out yet.
Yeah, and I think that comes into like there has to be some record keeping layer that says like, hey, you already paid, now you have a free 1,000 calls.
Yep.
And or you get a discount because you plan to do 1,000 calls beforehand, but at least you have the payment done through x402. Like, yeah.
The other thing too that no one talks about is doing x402 within an API call. You typically have to wait one block for confirmation minimum. So even someone like, or a chain like Solana, you're still looking at 300 to 400 milliseconds, which in the world of an API call is forever. So we haven't quite cracked how to also treat the payment as confirmed prior to it landing on chain.
Yeah, like we're going to assume you're doing this payment and
Yep.
it will happen. There's multiple ways to do it, right? Like give the data already and hope the payment will happen, or do some async process where you're just waiting, but at least the like receiving application has a way to receive it without the connection breaking. I think I've seen that feedback on Twitter too, where like, what if the connection breaks? Like, how can you verify the payment is done? How can you actually deliver the data after or the request? I think those will be features that we want to see either in facilitators or like mechanisms around it to handle that. So good points. And then maybe back to you, Joyce. Like we're mostly like, I've been imagining this as like AI agent does something for a user, but there is also a possibility where it's like AI agent to AI agent, or AI agents is like running all day, and then at the end of the day the user is like, oh, my agent did all this stuff, awesome, that's what I asked it to do. How do you see that constant flow? Of course, that's perfect for a wallet provider because you enable those flows and you make sure they happen securely. But how do you see that develop? And basically, what kind of cool products can we build with that?
Well, there are a lot of agent frameworks for x402 X402, popping up everywhere. I talked to native, quick start. So that's not really a framework, but there's also this actual framework called Daydreams Agent. And from what I know and from what people are like building, right, with these frameworks is, again, still pretty financially driven. Some people have tried to implement X402 in games, right? So not necessarily an agent, but we used to have this dream in GameFi where all our actions would be on chain so that you can actually verify. And like at the time it just sounded stupid because number one, it's probably pretty slow, even on such a fast chain like Solana. But like, like your game's already kind of laggy, and then you want to write every single action on chain. That's just not going to happen, right? And also, like, what are you going to do? Approve a transaction every time you make an action? Like, that's just not going to happen. But a lot of my friends who are building games were like, for the first time, I can actually see this happening because with X402, like, I just need to, have an approval and verification that just runs while my actions run in parallel. And have we seen that in any of the games yet? No, but like there are teams working towards this right now. And obviously GameFi is also still, a little bit low key in this meta, but I think we'll start seeing this. And if they can actually bring this to production, this is actually going to be really cool because this is going to fulfill the vision of bringing literally everything on chain. And I don't want to say that the only thing that blocked whatever from happening was just not being able to write actions on chain, but solving the payment part of it and solving, like, for example, the gas fees part of it is a very big thing. And I would like to believe quite a big blocker as well. And obviously, are there other things they need to solve? Yes, but this is a flow that I can see happening and enabled by X402. And obviously, you have your usual like agent stuff, for example, like DeFi agents. How can you tip an agent, for example, or how can an agent tip another agent to help find asymmetric opportunities in the market? Or how can it, for example, if you had like a poly market agent, right, and your agent's job is just to place bets for you, but to place a good bet, it needs another agent to actually go and read the news, right? So your agent can actually tip this agent or pay this agent and say, hey, like, I need to know everything about, for example, like the NYC polls right now. Like, what are the headlines saying about these two candidates? Can you tell me about it so that I can actually make an informed decision and place a good bet? That is very exciting. I want to see that, right? It's kind of like you talking to ChatGPT, but now it's just an agent talking to an agent that's going to use agent mode to browse the web for them. Another use case that I think is going to happen, but I hope not, is I think a lot of browsers try to fight bot use, and obviously agents are bots, no matter what kind of new names we give them. But to actually fight bot use and to only let good bots or like good agents, they will have to start charging, right? And so if you're a good agent, chances are you would want to pay to access the web, and like there will be gated content just for agents that are free for humans, whatever, right? How do they charge? They can charge with X402, which previously wasn't doable, right? Because agents can't have bank accounts, and it's just too tedious to give them a card and just approve every single transaction. So those are like the three flows that I really want to see happen, and I think are going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
That last one is actually a very good point. I see a lot of like websites like block agent activity, while actually that would help pushing their website or their brand forward. So that could be an incentivization. But I get it, because you might suddenly have a lot of traffic that you have to pay for, while the info on your website might be useful. So you, instead of that paywall, you could say like, hey, yeah, just if you're an agent and like not the real person, here's the X402 link and pay for it. Like, I think that is a great use case. and could be actually a separate stream of income. Like the whole internet right now is just like based on payments for marketing and trying to extract user data. But this flips that script a bit around. Also for builders, also for users, where you start valuing data as like on face value, basically, and what it means to you. So especially in a poly market case, you could say like, hey, I want this agent to have directly access to like this sales, like this earnings call from this company, so I'm up to date on these markets, so I can like trade these positions. There's a profit opportunity, and that information directly led to you profiting, so you could always send a fee to the information provider.
Yeah.
And I think that will even improve, like incentivize infra to just be better, like be faster, because now it's a game about who can provide that service the best for you as like an agent or a user, or for that profit potential. So yeah, very cool point there. And also other point I think you mentioned, like the gaming is it's not only about agents, it's about like humans doing actions in digital environments, and then also having good access to transacting value there. So in gaming, yeah, I really like that one too, because this with what Brock said, like you can pre-confirm, you can get the game item, or you can do the action on chain, or in the game, and then find to wait a bit, right? Like you can always roll it back in the game if you want, but then you can not have it interrupt. You can still see if the payment comes in, and probably if you're doing enough volume as a game, some transactions falling out won't be a problem. So yeah, that's a really cool case. So what's like holding us back except from all the blockers? Like, is it just time? Like builders have to build. Like, yeah, maybe Brock, if we have those nice features like subscription, like what's stopping us from applying this to the whole internet?
I was gonna say you won't like my hot take, but there's not really that many agents doing anything in the world. It's a lot of talk. No one's doing anything. I think the main thing here. So even with that, there's no revenue to be made yet. Or like super early stages of the protocol and implementation, years before there's real revenue to be made through it.
So yeah, smarter agents, like better,
yeah,
like but
more demand.
But I think that yeah, but I think it plays into what Joyce mentioned with like you have an agent specializing on a certain thing, right? Like I think we need to stop talking about a single agent doing everything. In my opinion, it's like building a swarm that does all these small things and useful things together. Yeah, is that also how you see that? Like just being a swarm of agents with everybody as their specialty, or yeah?
That's what I would love to see. I've been calling them like skinny agents or light agents. Things that can run even in browser, for instance, and more like curated tasks. But yeah, we're not there yet on the agentic side either. Not really.
And Joyce, is that like what would be the big unlock there? Like what kind of agents would probably be at the base? Like for example, if you're building a chain, you first need a DEX and a money market, and then you can build vaults. Like how would that stack work for agents? Have you thought about something like that?
Yeah, so I think one thing that's really holding us back is we don't have enough good AI people in the space. And I say this because it's very hard to build reliable agents. If you look at the non-crypto world, right? If you look at what's going on in like AI, no one's really building financial agents. They're not building agents to manage your investments for you or your bank accounts. I mean, there are exceptions. Obviously, there's this whole experiment going on where they let LLMs, trade with like $10,000. But like that's not like in crypto, we have agents in productions like managing your vaults, right? We don't have that in Web 2. And the reason is because all the AI people in Web 2 know that it's still very hard to build agents that are reliable and agents that you can actually evaluate and test with a reliable benchmark. And it's no one's fault. It's just that because we are so narrative driven, we don't think about that, and we just try to put out like agents. At the end of the day, I like to call them like if else, like if else and like for loops, right? Like they're not very different. They are optimized for loops. I'm gonna get like slaughtered for saying this, but what
You're
makes
in
it
friendly company here. Yeah.
yeah. But like what makes it so unique is that, you know, it has that decision making like brain, right? And it has access, like all these models that you're using has access to data, and you can give it more memory and you can give it more context. But no one's thinking about how we can actually put these agents to reliable use, right? So in Web 2, you have all these evals companies. You have companies making environments to train and reward agents before they're even put out to even deal with something as simple as browsing the web for you or like playing chess with you, right? Or playing Wordle with you. We don't have that in crypto. Everyone just builds an agent for a week, puts it out, and tells you, hey, like, give your agent a wallet, give your agent your wallet, and it will manage your money for you. We are so obsessed with that because cycles are so fast and hype cycles. Like you, obviously, I was a founder. I wanted to be in every single hype cycle there was, right? But that's like the biggest blocker right now. And it's also why like the people who are actually in AI don't take crypto AI people seriously, because no one ever really stops to think about these things, you know? And when you talk to like crypto people about these things, they're like, what? Like, why is this important? And of course it's important. And when you look at non-Web3 AI companies, they do things like, you know, AI browsers, right? Or they do things like AI document readers. Like no one's really playing with your money yet. And we kind of speed run all of that. So yeah, that's the blocker, I think. Like actual good research and builders.
Yeah, and it's tempting to jump on the new narrative and then spin up an AI agent for that, which is probably just a ChatGPT API wrapper. And of course, we've seen that a lot in the AI space too. Like companies just like combining a few APIs and calling it something totally new, and then being outcompeted in 2 months because that's the functionality later on in ChatGPT, and company done. But of course, in crypto, there's like this hyper financialization where there's suddenly like 5 tokens around that narrative, and people raising a lot of money apparently on that. But yeah, it needs to change. Like that mentality of just building something for a week. I think there was an amazing post this week somewhere on Twitter, somebody claiming that crypto has that problem of just building for a few months and pivoting too fast before there's any product market fit. And I think building good context for these agents takes serious research, because I think that's where it comes down. Very biased as a data company is like, you build good context, which is highly likely good data pipelines for an agent to use so it can make informed decisions, and then iterate on that. But if every iteration is a pivot instead of just an improvement on top of the current product, yeah, it will be hard to come to a finalized product. So I agree there with your points that if there's founders listening, please don't pivot next week. Please take a month longer and prove this version of your product first. So what's that for like Crossmint in general? How like because Crossmint has been around for a long time, actually. So, and you've stuck to wallet infra for quite long. And the cool thing is, like, everybody in crypto needs a wallet, so your essential infra for whatever narrative. But you as a product manager, how do you manage that then? Like, not having all these random narrative features that you have to add every week, and then next week nobody uses it. So, yeah, how are you navigating that?
I mean, so I'm not the PM on the Wallace team, but our product team is incredibly disciplined because number one, we're not a huge team, right? Like if you go on LinkedIn and you look for us, you find out that we're like 60 people and like half of us are engineers. And when you have such a lean team like that, it's very hard to be like, yes, let's build this today and like let's build something different tomorrow. And so behind every product decision that we make, and obviously this is because we have also very disciplined co-founders that are like, yeah, like we have this vision and we're not gonna deviate from this vision because the meta changed, right? Like I also am in charge of like some of the content that we put out, and obviously I'm like the meta chasing person because I have to know what's hot on Twitter and what's gonna go viral. And so on this front, it's very easy for me to like spin a narrative about like what Crossmint is doing and how it fits to this meta and all that. But on the actual product building side, we have a roadmap. We know what's important and we stick to it. And Crossmint has been around for like a little over 3 years now. And anyone who's seen us from like day one, and obviously I haven't been there since day one, right? But like so many people come up to tell me and they're like, it's so funny because we knew you guys as a NFT minting company, and now you guys have like everything, and you have like an amazing like wallets product. Like, how did that happen? And like that doesn't happen without discipline, right? Because that is a pivot that was obviously necessary, but not driven by hype or like any meta that happened. So all I can say is just a lot of discipline, a lot of vision and direction, obviously from leadership, and just really getting our priorities straight. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's sometimes it looks like a pivot, but I guess that you had a lot of infra useful for minting NFTs that you can directly like use in the new product.
And we still
That
have
way you, yeah.
Yeah.
Also very important. If you still want to mint NFTs, although I guess that's less popular than a few years back,
Yeah.
it's still possible. Okay, maybe as a final question then, if all of this takes off, like x402, and builders finally keep building their products, we get more useful agents. How does like the web look like when everybody can use x402? How does it look like to me if I'm logging in, maybe seeing the wallet of my agent, my own wallet next to each other, doing all these payments? Yeah, what does the world look like after x402 adoption, after everybody's using a Crossmint wallet, everybody's using the neighborhood data? Brock, maybe start with you.
I think the goal state is getting towards microtransactions, so paying for consumption in whatever you're doing. We're talking about API calls as a first step in that direction, but it could also be music streaming. It could be watching Netflix. It could be the food you eat, whatever it is, like trying to shorten the life cycle from I'm consuming and I'm paying and it's being paid all the way through. So instant settlement all the way through that supply chain, and doing so at that micro transaction level. So eliminating all the middlemen essentially that cause the friction and cause the extra fees we all pay without realizing it.
Yeah, it sounds like just more fairness in payment and usage and efficiency, I guess.
Exactly. Yep.
Nice. Joyce, what about you?
For me, it's just, a world that is fair to non-human users. I mean, I say this because it's funny to me, but it's a very real possibility that this happens in the next year. And soon you won't even know if your counterparty on chain or even off chain, right? Like on the browser or whatever, is a human or non-human. And everything runs on financial rails. And x402 just really has this big unlock for accelerating this by like, I don't know, like 5 years probably. Obviously, we make jokes and we're like, yeah, like 4.2 has been around for like 20 years, but no one's really like taken it. I mean, obviously Coinbase has done it, but like what Coinbase does is make it accessible to the public, like you and me, because anyone who's not like a hardcore like fintech developer would have never seen this error code in their lives. I think a lot of my developer friends were like, I didn't even know there was this code, right? It's 401, 403, 404. No one ever really thinks about 402, and it's not something that you like Google out of like curiosity. So I think they've done a good job there, and they're gonna continue leading the meta, which is obviously very exciting because they have a whole like business around being the everything exchange. So good for them. But for the rest of us, I think it just enables us to think of, number one, new monetization opportunities, new ways to help agents actually run on chain. It's no longer a meme. It's no longer a fantasy. It can actually happen now, and also for sub segments in crypto, like for example GameFi that I mentioned, to actually have new use cases that were not possible before. So those are pretty exciting to me. I am not a fortune teller. I can't really see that far into the future yet, but at least for now, for all the use cases that we're seeing, I think this is how it's shaping up.
Nice. Yeah, I think that is a good path forward, and just ask the builders to respect those visions so they both come true. Uh, so we can get back and reply with this podcast and say, we told you so. This is how it should be in 2 years. Thank you for coming on, Joyce and Brock. I had a blast listening to this discussion. I think this is a conversation we need to have more in crypto about. What is it we're doing? What is it what we're actually enabling, instead of just trading a new meme coin? So Joyce, where can people find you if they want to get in touch or view your amazing x402 maps?
I'm at Henlo is Joyce on Twitter. But if that's too difficult and too long, you can also reach out to Crossmint at Crossmint on Twitter. We're also on LinkedIn, and yeah, that's pretty much where we live. Twitter
Awesome.
and LinkedIn.
We'll put that in the description too. For Index & Co, it's at Index & Co. Brock has the Twitter Runnin' Yeti. I'm under Aperture, with a underscore between ape and RTURE. I should have thought about that before I went like podcasting. But thank you both for coming on and having this interesting conversation on x402.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys.